You blink once and you're gonna miss it. This real-life Superman could move faster than the speed of film, leap tall buildings in a single bound, churn out legends from his martial arts academies, and make it to Time's 100 most influential people of the century list, all before the age of 32. In today's Masters episode, we're having coffee with Bruce Lee. Hi everyone, welcome back to Vedic Life Coaching. Thank you so much for joining me, and welcome back to the Masters series. Now, before I begin my usual intro, I just wanted to say that I am launching this video at a time where there is chaos in the world, or should I say parts of the world are being regenerated at this time. And I wanted to say that my heart goes out to you if you're in a part of the world that is particularly difficult at the moment, and you're in my prayers. And if you're here for some distraction, some nice, easy, chilled out, relaxing, distracting content, then you're in the right place, because what we're doing here today is we're just appreciating today's incredible master, Bruce Lee, and we are appreciating the beautiful ancient language of astrology. So today we are having coffee. I'm having a mushroom tea. This is really too hot for me right now, so I'm going to put it down. So I'm having a mushroom tea. Now, I did some Google searching. I wanted to see what would Bruce Lee have. And it turns out he didn't drink coffee, he didn't take alcohol, but what he did have was raw meat smoothies with vitamins in. I mean, can you believe that? I have no idea what that would taste like. Although I used to eat meat some years ago, and I used to love sushi, and I have some experience with raw meat, so I can kind of imagine what that would be like. Yeah, that's bizarre, right? I think he would have done that. Obviously, there must be some kind of fitness element to that, some kind of muscle building. That would be some muscle building activity, right? So I thought that was pretty interesting. But I did my research. I've got my 2-page script here. We're going to get right into this. I have really enjoyed studying this incredible man, and I think I saw him on the movies, like in Australia here on the TV when I was growing up. They would have Bruce Lee type films on in the afternoons. I remember I used to watch Jerry Lewis films, I used to watch Shirley Temple films, so there were old American films on the TV here. And I'm sure there were some Bruce Lee films, but I came to know about Bruce Lee more through my studies of Jiddu Krishnamurti, who is in the Masters series. I'm going to link to him. If you want to watch that one, you can. And he's certainly my favorite philosopher, and it turns out he's one of the favorite philosophers of Bruce Lee here. So that's how I came to get into studying Bruce Lee, and this guy is just super cool. So why don't we get stuck in? I went a little bit over the 2-page limit because he's just so fascinating, and he's a really great astrological case study, which you're going to see as we go along. So why don't I get in? All right. When Bruce Lee started out in Hollywood, it turned out he really was too quick for the cameras. He said, "At first, it was ridiculous. All you could see were people falling down in front of me. Even when I slowed down, all that the camera showed was a blur." So Bruce had to be recorded at a higher frame rate just to capture all those lightning fast moves. When I first read about this, I thought there must be something really interesting going on with Bruce's Saturn. The planet that slows us all down had nothing on him. Sure enough, when I checked his chart, Saturn is debilitated. Saturn's position in the chart is also important. It is far away from all the action of the fast-moving planets, and Bruce's North Star, his Rahu. Rahu in Virgo and Virgo's Lord Mercury, right next door, makes the main stars in his chart look like the tip of a fast-moving arrow. In fact, all fast-moving planets are in the Rahu half of the chart. The big, slow outer planets are seated on the sides, out of the action, like elderly wallflowers at a party full of youngsters. On looking at Bruce's Samudya Ashtaka points and the transit wheel, I could also see that Saturn passing through Leo, 11th from the moon, must have yielded some incredible results. When I saw that this would have happened in 1950, and that he would have been only 10 years old, I was mildly disheartened, thinking not much would have happened at that time. But on reading through his biographical details, this year was indeed very significant. It was when he landed his first leading role. By the time he was 18, he had appeared in an astonishing 20 films. It was Jupiter Mahadasha, ruled by Mars, that put this young man to work so early. The hard work was set to continue. When Jupiter Mahadasha gave way to Saturn Mahadasha in 1959, it became obvious to Bruce Lee's parents that the streets of Hong Kong were too small for their larger-than-life child. Police were calling the house, letting them know he'd end up in jail if he continued fighting in the streets. To me, Saturn became the architect of the next very important chapter of Bruce's life, which included immigration back to the land of his birth, America, the meeting of his truly lovely and loyal wife, the creation of his family, plus an extraordinary amount of hard work, self-discipline, and focus. It was in America that he discovered a love for philosophy and even created his own form of martial art, Jeet Kune Do. Let's take a closer look at this Saturn. Yes, it's debilitated. Now, if you have a debilitation like this and are worried about the upcoming Mahadasha of your debilitated planet, I hope this episode inspires you to take this time frame on with a sense of fearless determination, just as Bruce Lee did. While there's no Vipreet Raj Yoga rescuing this Saturn, there is cancellation of debility, as Saturn is being aspected by his debilitation lord. We can say that this Saturn definitely provided some rise, some uplift to Bruce Lee's path. However, it is still operating on less power, as seen in both Shadbala and Ishtkashvala scores. Could this mean that the bad qualities of Saturn were all knocked out? It could. I tend to think a malefic planet that is diminished in power causes fewer blocks or restrictions in a person's life. It can also keep one's ego in check. I see it as a good thing. With Saturn unable to hold him back, Bruce was free to engage in his creativity to his heart's content. When it comes to art, his 12th house contains all the goods. He was ultimately a martial artist. Martial, Mars, artist, Venus plus Mercury. He could write poetry, Moon and Mercury, and his handwriting was sublime, Mars in the 12th house, which is 3 places away from Mars's exaltation house. 3 places away denotes someone having a talent with their hands. Bruce's love of philosophy can also be seen in this 12th house. That's where his moon is, and that's where his favourite philosopher's moon is too. His favourite philosopher, of course, being Jiddu Krishnamurti, who is also in the Masters series. Speaking of philosophy, let's hear Bruce explain the unique philosophies that fueled his tremendous talent.
To me, ultimately, martial art means honestly expressing yourself. Now, it is very difficult to do, okay? I mean, it is easy for me to put on a show and be cocky and be flooded with a cocky feeling and then feel like pretty cool and all that. Or I can make all kinds of phony things, you see what I mean? Blinded by it. Or I can show you some really fancy movement. But to express oneself honestly, not lying to oneself, and to express myself honestly. Now that, my friend, is very hard to do, and you have to train. You have to keep your reflexes so that when you want it, it's there. When you want to move, you're moving. And when you move, you are determined to move. Not taking 1 inch, not anything less than that. If I want to punch, I'm going to do it, man, and I'm going to do it, you see. So, so that is the type of thing you have to train yourself into it, to become one with the punch. Now, I'm leaning forward a little bit, hoping not to hurt any camera angle. You got to put the whole hip into it and snap it and get all your energy in there and make this into a weapon.
Amazing to make this, the human body, into a weapon. Wow. There's so much in that clip to unpack astrologically, but let's start from the beginning. He mentioned expressing oneself honestly. Of course, we have Saturn opposite the moon. Whenever there is a Saturn-Moon connection of any kind, the person will have a tremendous connection with honesty. He talked about being flooded with a cocky feeling and how that will get you nowhere. I would say this comes from his debilitated Saturn and his wintry hidden sun, his Scorpio sun. Training so that, as he said, when you want it, it's there. Again, Saturn in the 6th house with Mars as the Lord. Now there are 2 exalted Marses in D9 and D10. So Saturn, the hard work, the structure, the training, he practiced 5,000 punches in a day. And exalted Mars, the excellence of delivery, a brilliant performance time and time again. And turning his physical body into his greatest weapon, yes, we can see that. So now this was Mars's fantasy over there in the 12th house. So if Mars had a fantasy, what would it be? Well, in this case, it's to turn the physical body into a weapon. And we can see that Mars is the lord of the 1st house of the physical body, and it's the lord of the 6th, containing the 2 great materializers, Jupiter and Saturn. Not only did he achieve his dream, he went beyond, creating his own form of martial art known as Jeet Kune Do. While everyone else's way was my way or the highway, Bruce's way was that of no way. To be free in form, to flow like water, perhaps to be boundless, like all that beautiful energy in his 12th house. Which reminded me of Pablo Picasso, who once said, "Learn the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist." Picasso also had his rule-breaking Mars in the 12th house, and so we can see that these 2 great minds certainly did think alike. What can we learn from Bruce Lee, even though we may never have touched a set of nunchucks or sent a man flying across a room? Have I? No, I haven't. Well, Bruce Lee's Saturn is in the 6th house, and it has inspired me to see all lines of work in a neutral way, to recognize that frameworks for growth or career ladders of any kind all offer the individual the possibility to serve others with excellence, and most importantly, they offer a daily chance to express ourselves as honestly as possible. Bruce Lee is right. If you try to express yourself honestly, you will find that this is not easy to do. It is easy to be cocky. It is easy to imitate. But it takes real courage and time reinvested back into yourself to find the truth of who you are and to share that with the world. I'll let Bruce's Saturn in the 6th finish today's episode with this bit of guiding wisdom. If you are competing in any line of work with courage, integrity, and honesty, and you genuinely run your own race, pretty soon all the energy around you, including the hard knocks of competitors or imitators, will simply serve to push you to the top. So I hope you enjoy that overview of Bruce Lee. I think we're doing okay for time. I'm going to finish with maybe a bit of footage of Bruce doing his thing, his martial arts thing, which I can't do. And the music, or maybe I'm going to have him talking a bit more philosophy. I'm not sure, I haven't worked that out yet, but we're going to have some footage of him at the end. And under that we're going to have some music, and the music is going to be the Mission Impossible theme tune. And why have I chosen that? Well, I've chosen that because Bruce Lee loved that piece of music. He used to work out to that. That really motivated and inspired him. And I found a great jazz version by James Morrison. So that will be on in the background. But I hope you've enjoyed this piece of distracting content where we can all learn a bit of astrology. If you have any insights or anything you'd like to share at all in the comments below, please do. I love to hear from you, and I look forward to seeing you next time.